How many weapons has China locked away? It's no exaggeration to say that the weapons in storage could easily equip a million-strong army. Did you know that in Lushan Airport, located in Pingdingshan City, Hunan Province, China, there are over 2,000 retired fighter jets stored? This includes older aircraft like the J5, J6, J7, and J8, making it the second largest storage facility globally, only after the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in the United States. While the aircraft graveyard may not be as vast as the United States, and these aircraft models might be considered antiques, they could still prove their worth if the need arises. Especially noteworthy is the J6, with a production number reaching 4,000 to 5,000 units. On June 12, 2010, it was officially retired from the Chinese Air Force's equipment inventory, but it never truly left the Chinese Air Force. Why? Because it can be retrofitted into drones and unmanned target aircraft, continuing to play a valuable role. The Davis-Monthan base in the United States houses over 6,000 aircraft. Some of these aircraft are in pristine condition and could be utilized, including B-1 and B-52 bombers, F-16 fighter jets, A-10 attack aircraft, and more. In the event of a war, while these aircraft might not take to the battlefield themselves, their parts can be repurposed for a second lease on life. The aircraft graveyard has transformed into a maintenance factory, reflecting our pragmatic approach to weapons and equipment production. If it works now or in the future, it's sufficient. Insufficient firepower is not an option. What happens to China's retired weapons and equipment? Besides retirement and storage, they can also be put to use by the Coast Guard. For example, after retiring, 22 Type 056 frigates were transferred to the Chinese Coast Guard. Although the Type 056 frigate may be considered outdated for the People's Liberation Army Navy, it remains more than capable for nearshore patrols and maritime rights protection and law enforcement activities. Thus, transferring them to the Coast Guard is the most appropriate choice. It's also because the Coast Guard has received a large number of retired naval vessels that whenever military enthusiasts discuss the fate of the Liaoning aircraft carrier after retirement, the most common suggestion is to hand it over to the Coast Guard. Apart from being transferred to the Coast Guard, some of the retired warships are exported to other countries. For countries with weaker military infrastructures and a pressing need to develop their defense industries, second-hand transactions have become the ideal solution for some retired weapons and equipment. For example, the Huanshe-class Type 053H2 frigate, after completing its service on April 27, 2013, following retirement from the North Sea Fleet, underwent refurbishment and was exported to Bangladesh. Of course, some warships, after retirement, are repurposed as target ships for missile tests. The USS America, the third ship of the Essex-class aircraft carrier Small Eagle of the United States, served as a target ship for testing and was eventually sunk. There are also instances where some retired warships are transformed into museums or directly converted into museum exhibits. Take the first generation for Great Guardians, the 4 Type 7 class guided missile destroyers, for example. They were the first type of guided missile destroyer officially commissioned by the People's Liberation Army Navy. The same principles apply to equipment like aircraft, tanks, missiles, and more after they've reached the end of their service life. These weapons, having weathered the test of time, spend their twilight years in museums and patriotic education centers. They serve as tourist attractions and educational resources. Lastly, some retired weapons and equipment are disassembled and sold as scrap metal or melted down into molten iron, becoming the basic raw materials for new weapons, continuing to play a role in the defense capabilities.